Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, we're about to spectate a 3v3 on the map Regicide Fortress between my viewers as part of my weekly Twitch TV live streams. If you want to get in on this, you can find my live streaming schedule by going to my Twitch page and scrolling underneath the video player there. The topic of today's video is going to be unique units, and that's where we're playing Regicide, so every player starts with a castle and a king, and if they lose that king, they're out of the game. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the game. Good luck, have fun, everybody. I'm always nice, Leopard, don't worry about it. The purpose of my videos, of course, is to help you improve your overall understanding of the game, and also to show you how to have fun. Regicide Fortress is a very, very entertaining game mode, so I'm looking forward to this game. But of course, to start off any wonderful game of Age of Empires 2, we must first take a moment to introduce all the players. In the purple, we have, I don't know what I'm supposed to call him, playing as the Britons. We've got Leopard playing as the blue Huns. We have No Chill as the red Spanish, Grom as the green Koreans, Never Makes Longbows, aka Goodbye Mr. A, playing as the yellow Saracens, and then we have Jim Bob, aka Bob Jimmy, playing as the blue Aztecs. So it's going to be purple, green, and yellow on the same team versus blue, red, and teal. Interesting set of civilizations here. Actually gives me a fairly cool, I have quite a bit to talk about here, and thankfully since they all random, there are no duplicate civs. Right off the bat, though, the first thing I want to mention is that on Fortress, you have a rather odd economy setup. You start with 5 farms, sorry. Barracks, 4 houses, a bunch of watchtowers. I believe the amount of watchtowers is also 4. And since it's the Regicide game mode, you start at the castle. You have a different distribution of resources than you normally would be playing on the Regicide game mode, so one important thing to consider is you start with no gold. So if you want to get loom, you're going to actually need to mine gold a little bit earlier than you otherwise think you might be, especially if you're not playing on a map like Fortress, where there are no walls. You could end up losing a villager to a scout or something if you're not careful, so keep in mind, you're going to need to want to mine some gold early on. There are actually boars in this map, they're a real pain in the butt to lure, because they're outside of your walls usually, so it's really annoying to deal with. But this is a very, very fun combination of settings that I recommend that people play. There are actually plenty of competitive Regicide Fortress games as well out there. Thank you so much, Rambard, for the 14-month resub. Really appreciate the support, guys. Welcome to stream, Romanu2222 and Littorio, as well as Platinum Fix. Great to see you guys. I love to see all the familiar faces, and those of you who are new as well, welcome to the stream. Now it is time, of course, to go over all of the civilization's unique units in this game. In the future, I'm going to try and mix in a little bit more data and specific, specific type of talking points into my general commentary, mostly as a way to explain that Age of Empires 2 is a game that's all about adapting to the situation, and that data doesn't provide you a clear answer on whether things are good or bad, or how you should be doing things, but rather is something that you just factor into your decision and acknowledge that every game of Age of Empires 2 is different. This is heavily influenced by, there are just so many variables. Not only is the map generation different every time, and oh boy, that is inefficient, I'm gonna move my camera somewhere else. Poor Bob Jimmy, he'll notice it soon. Disaster. But also, you know, the civilization matchups that you have in the game, the map layout is just going to be so radically different. Where is your civ even positioned? Is it a team game, one-on-one? There's so many different maps. What units is your opponent making? Your opponent is going to have to make decisions of incomplete information all the time, and whether or not you control your, how you control your troops also heavily plays into it. So when I say data, I don't mean scenario editor tests, but I do mean interesting things like how you should balance your economy, for example, if you were going for 2 archer ranges in the feudal age. But right now, though, it's unique unit time, and thank God we got everyone's favorite unique unit, at least mine when I was a kid. And new players love the Britons. The Britons are very straightforward civilization. Don't forget that you can make champions, though, versus Huskarls or Evil Warriors. Please don't forget that. Otherwise, they got the Longbowman. The Longbowman is a really interesting unique unit. It's got absurdly long range, of course, longbow, long range, pretty good stats. It's got a couple of weaknesses, though. For starters, the Britons are one of the only civs in the game. They don't get... It's thumb ring, right? Yeah, they're one of the only civs, if not the only civ, I think, in the game that doesn't get thumb ring. I might be wrong about that. But the thing is that without thumb ring, though, their archers are actually fairly inaccurate, and that definitely means that the Longbowmen can be beaten. If they had thumb ring, they would be absolutely ridiculous to deal with, so... That's a pretty major drawback. Also, the thing with Longbowmen, especially compared to Arbalest, is that in a lot of games, as the Britons, at least at a higher level of play, you don't see Longbowmen come into play that often, mostly because they're just so darn slow to get out. Now, you need a castle first, and you need to build several castles if you really want to mess up an army. Whereas archers, crossbowmen, arbalists are strong at... the Aztecs also don't get thumb ring, and Franks too, thank you. And since you can make archers in the feudal age and just start massing them up and then just get the upgrades throughout the ages, those generally just seem to be the better option. The longbowman's one extra range and everything is nice, but the ability to build a ton of archer ranges and just mass up your arbs that way is generally superior. So the longbowman, though, in a luxury situation, is incredibly strong. If you're having difficulty dealing with this unique unit, which players often tell me that they are, you have to kind of think outside the box. You need a combination of units. You need to use... I would recommend putting some rams at the front of your army, and then because units will default to attacking the thing that's closest to them, and the rams take 1 damage from the longbow, so it's a great way to soak up and waste all their shots, so your opponent has to, do some Viper-esque micro if he wants to make that less inefficient for him. So put some rams at the front of your army. I'd recommend a combination of units. Like you want perhaps some cavalry to charge them down, some siege rams, while you have maybe some skirmishers at the back and onagers. So throw as many different counters as humanly possible, because you put him in a situation where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he focuses down your onagers, then he's going to get wrecked by the cavalry that's moving in on him. And if he focuses down the cavalry, then the onager shots will blast him to pieces. A smart Britons player, of course, is going to make more than just longbowmen and make your life a lot more difficult. But again, a wide variety of units is the trick to taking this on. Try some rams at the front, onagers at the back, something else too. Don't forget to make champions as the Civ, though. You're really going to need it versus strong infantry with high pierce armor. Halberdiers as well can be excellent support, and the Civ can go for knights and whatnot too. It's got a good economy. What else we got? We got Leopard. He's our first player. Wow, the first player in the feudal age, and he's on his way to the castle age too. Huns. Tarkan unit got a lot of buffs in... one moment, mates. I'm just going to try and go over all the units and everything first. So, the Huns... They've got Tarkans. It's a cavalry unit with attack bonus versus building, slightly worse combat stats in general than a knight, but is immediately comparable to a knight. I like the Tarkan as a unit. I think it's one of those fun ones to use. It's like a cavalry plus siege weapon. This unit sees some fringe competitive play every now and then, but it's really only good if your opponent is making archer units. Otherwise, the combat stats in it are just pretty insufficient, I would say. They don't trade very well, missing that one Dura armor as well as some attack, and it's pretty difficult to mass them up. Thankfully, though, they actually do create very quickly, and something that I learned today as well, speaking of data, is that the Tarkans create much quicker out of a castle. I believe it's 14 seconds for the Tarkan and the elite Tarkan in the castle, compared to at the stable. If you research Marauders, they actually create, I believe it's 24 and 22 seconds or something like that, or is it 26 and 24? So they actually create slower at the stable, which is interesting. The fact that the Huns now have a unique technology that allows you to make Tarkans in the stable is pretty nice for being able to mass them up. There's still always going to be a situational unit, though, because Paladins are much better in straight-up combat, and Tarkans, what you want to do is look for that Break the Meta video on my YouTube channel. It's the type of thing where if you can get in there and bust down some town centers, and you just need some push, and your opponent is going for archer-type units, Tarkans can certainly come into play, but they're always going to be situational. With the extra 1 pierce armor, they're even nicer now, so keep your eyes peeled. It's a situational unit, but it's a good one. So let's see. Anyway, welcome to the stream, Maita. So if you're looking for any latest news, you can find that from my any sort of update videos, but no real major news. Patch 5.3 is out right now. I got the new job and everything. Oh yeah, of course the no housing bonus is massive too. But moving on to our next civilization, we've got Bob Jimmy playing as the Aztecs. Jaguar Warriors have, I think, a plus 10 attack bonus versus infantry units, which is pretty darn rock solid. This is another one of the situational units that I really feel like it shines in an Aztec mirror match, where elite Eagle Warriors are kind of one of the dominant Imperial Age units that we see because of that just crazy power spike that you get. You've got the economy to back it up, and as American civs all have insanely strong economies. The Aztecs particularly, because carrying extra resources means your villagers spend less time walking overall. It's great. Also, military units create faster. So that Eagle Warrior flood is excellent. And I think the Jaguar Warriors are always something that should be considered in an Aztec mirror match, because infantry are so dominant there. Arbalest, of course, come into play too, but your opponent will be mixing an infantry into his army. It's something to consider. It's a situational counter unit. It's like the Tarkan, but in a different sense, in that they're both situational, so this one should always be a consideration if infantry are causing you lots of trouble. Of course, you have Arbalest for things like that, but if you're dealing with the Goths, the Jaguar Warrior is better than the Champion, but the Champion can also be good too, so definitely a unit to consider. Pretty good stats overall. Garland Wars, I think it's got a whopping 20 attack. That's pretty solid. Moving on to Spanish. So no chills playing as the Spanish. The Spanish actually have like a +4 attack bonus with the Conquistadors versus Rams, which is cool. That's actually a little higher than I thought. I believe that's higher than the Hand Cannoneer and most similar units, so that's actually pretty nice because Rams are somewhat prevalent in the Castle Age. This is one of the few unique units in the game that you can actually end up going for in a like fast Castle Age build, particularly if you're in the pocket in a team game, like you're surrounded by your teammates, or you're playing on like Arena in a 1v1. Conquistador Rush can be quite good. Why is that? Well, this unit creates quick enough. It might be expensive, but the combat stats are great. It's just a great raiding unit. It's fast. It has incredibly good stats. So it's like the Plumed Archer, which is one of the other units that we see commonly used in the Castle Age. So rock solid raiding unit there. Just a generally good bulk to your army, good armor. It's a good one. So yeah, it actually does deal fairly well with Rams. I like this unit a lot. It's expensive though, it requires you to significantly invest in your economy, and one of the bigger choices there is deciding, of course, whether or not you want to build a town center before your castle. It can be a bit of an eco investment going for this type of fast Castle Age and Conquistadors build. I believe you want to assign 3 villagers on stone right before you advance to the start advancing to the feudal age in order to have enough stone to build this. But that's assuming that you don't want to build additional town centers. Fun little decisions like that keep this game interesting to me. Well, in the stream, Sir Arkaz. So, yeah, the Saracens never makes longbows, playing as the Saracens. Well, I guess he can't make longbows if he's not the Britons. Got a lot of military buildings up, though. I'll have to see what this guy's plan is. So anyway, this is one of those units which is absurdly difficult to deal with in the late game. Once you have a lot of gold, this thing's very expensive, it requires a ton of upgrades, but oh my god. Ha! Here comes the Tarkan bust. Did he bust this down with the Petard? Taking a page straight out of Doubt's playbook. Meanwhile, while we watch this wonderful thing, Saracens, very difficult to deal with in the late game. The Mamelukes are crazy. They're actually, I know that Arbalests don't trade efficiently with them in a one-on-one standpoint, but you have to look at it from a broader game standpoint. Use a, like, mass ranged units. Eventually, you'll start trading efficiently. You just need enough of them. Holy shit, is he gonna take down this town center? Oh god. I feel like Purple is reacting to this correctly by making some monks, but this is what Tarkans are for. See, you can do this with knights, but it's not as good. Oh my god, is this his only town center too? Unbelievable! Well played, Leopard. He's gonna lose 2 Tarkans to conversions. This is a great exchange, by the way, because of the monks. You know, the big resource swing there. But holy shit. Oh no, he does have another town center. He actually has 2. That's still so bad for him, and he's gonna lose all those villagers too. He's gonna make a Longbowman. I mean, I would say this is a worthwhile trade. I think that this probably severely crippled Leopard's economy. Leopard is actually probably the one with only... Yeah, he's the one with only 1 town center. But you know, my man, I'm proud of you. I wonder if he should have pulled back at any point, but he's still... This is still paying dividends. He just ruined this economy. All those idle and/or dead villagers. Look at this. This is damage that you can't quantify alone from units lost. Well played, Leopard. Well played. That was a pretty sick Tarkan play. So that's what Tarkans are good for. You want to bust down a wall and run in and take it a TC. And in the late game, honestly, if your opponents are going for a more ranged army comp, then Tarkans can certainly be useful. It's a trick that should always be up your sleeve. You know, on the other side of the map, we see some potential Eagle Warrior raiding going on, looking for some map control. So yeah, in order to deal with Mamelukes, I definitely recommend like mass ranged units. Ideally, you would have something at the front too to zone off the Mamelukes. That's just because they have no pierce armor. And it's just a really difficult unit to counter in general because it's a ranged camel that still deals melee damage. It's absurd. But there are ways to deal with it. Just get a bunch of mass ranged units, keep them safe at the front. Even some Siege Onager Blasts, Heavy Scorpions, etc. can be fine. Maybe even Hand Cannoneers, etc. You've got options, but I would generally say avoid fighting them in melee range because they do eat most infantry units for breakfast as well as most cavalry units for breakfast. But ranged units are their weakness. Meanwhile, oh my god, I hate it when I get ganged up on. Oh, my heart goes out to Purple. But it looks like he's in the wrong neighborhood. He's like, ah, shit, I wasn't ready for the Britons to have Tarkans. Can't beat this. Now he's gonna pull out. Of course, the reason the teal's going over here is because these walls are already open, so might as well. This is the most vulnerable player. Meanwhile, we see some Conquistadors coming out in here. I got one final unique unit to really quickly touch on. Apparently, War Wagons and Elite War Wagons have +5 attack bonus versus buildings. I knew they felt oddly satisfying to use, and now we've confirmed it. Ha! Bernander says the Viper is inches away from hosting me, but Killer Bee is cooler, apparently. Feels bad, man. On the stream, DNFM, really appreciate it. Thank you for coming by. Yeah, so many streams going on Saturday. Can't compete, man. So yeah, War Wagons, +5 attack bonus versus buildings. Feels really satisfying to use. This unit is super expensive. It's like the quintessential late-game powerhouse unit. It has a ton of health, a ton of armor, really respectable attack, great little range support army in your, if you're the Koreans. But this thing is so expensive. You need way more lumberjacks and gold miners than you think you do to sustain production from these. Really taxing on the wood side of things. Basically, the entire Korean army comp is, because they need siege weapons too. In order to deal with this unit, it's pretty bad versus things like camels. Mass onagers tend to do very well versus bombard cannons are okay, skirms are okay, but this thing is pretty solid pierce armor. Just whatever you do, don't use archers versus war wagons if you're having trouble with it. Similarly, don't use cavalry to deal with Mamelukes. Oh my, here comes more Tarkans. Oh shit, the Viper is hosting me now. What? I was gonna host Killer Bee. Thank you so much, the Viper, for hosting me for 1,677 viewers. I really appreciate it, Viper. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Thank you, man. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. For those of you who are just tuning in, we're spectating a 3v3 on Arena between my viewers. I always do these viewer games during my live stream. We're doing educational commentary, so if you're new to Age of Empires 2 and you'd like to learn, then you're in the right place. Today the topic is unique units, and we're seeing some seriously awesome Tarkan Rush coming in from Leopard over here, going into Purple's base. Purple desperately trying to put up his own castle. Will he be able to do it? We'll see, and the answer is yes, he can. I don't think he has murder holes yet, but he should be fine anyway, because he has all these watchtowers here. This is Regicide Fortress. But wow, he's in so much trouble. Meanwhile, here comes Grom bringing in a wolf, as well as a bunch of war wagons. Now, war wagons versus Tarkans, since the Tarkans did end up getting an additional 1 pierce armor in the expansions to Aoe2 HD, it's not that great of a matchup, but thankfully war wagons with +9 attack is actually a reasonable exchange, so should be fine. And of course, for those of you who are enjoying the stream, I have a link to my respective YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages below, and you can find tutorials, gameplay videos, and all that jazz. If you're new to the game, really recommend the Night Rush tutorial. Leopard says he's sorry. Now the thing is that Leopard is doing this seriously at the cost of his own economy. I think this is actually his first town center. So this is actually quite awful for him. So we're at 54 population, and let's swap over to Purple. Purple has a population lead despite losing his initial town center to a Tarkan Rush and sustaining an amazing amount of pressure, but it's great to see all these unique units coming into play here. Purple mixing in a couple of spearmen to deal with the Tarkans should be fine. I think at this point the Leopard's going to have to transition into something else if he wants to survive. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, it looks like Red is once again continuing to raid with Conquistadors, and that's why we see Yellow using Camels as an answer to this. Now, Camels are a very fast unit, and they do deal with Conquistadors pretty well, unless you get kited like this. If there are enough Conquistadors in the playing field, then as we can see here, you just hit and run, even though that wasn't the most efficient use of Micro there. It's still pretty solid, and there just were not enough Camels for Yellow. That's why when it comes to dealing with like ranged units like Cavalry Archers or Conquistadors, I like to make sure that I have some ranged unit with my melee units to punish my opponent for stopping and shooting all the time. That way every time he stops with his army of Mangudai, he's going to eat some shots from my skirms, for example. Of course, he can still horribly outrun me, but the idea is I'm trying to zone him away from my economy. It also pays to station like a Mangonel here or something like that. But regardless, Red putting on some incredible pressure. This is going to be very difficult for Yellow to deal with, but Yellow can kill this over the wall with a Mameluke, which is going to be pretty nice to him, doing a nice little 11 damage. Oh wow, do these things have a small attack bonus versus Rams? They actually might. Meanwhile, Teal, with a forward in the middle of the map, he's doing this because otherwise with the rush distance, it takes so long for him to walk. Eagle Warriors are a great choice here, I think, from Teal, and because they deal nicely with the War Wagons. They've got the Pierce Armor for this, they've got the attack bonus. I believe these things have a +3 attack bonus versus Siege and +3 versus Cavalry. I think the bonus to Cavalry applies to the War Wagons, so that's pretty rock solid. At some point in the future, maybe I'll talk about how Eagle Warriors in HD Edition trade with Knights and how that matchup goes, because it's always an interesting topic of debate. But in the meantime, I'd say Eagle Warriors are just the go-to choice here. Eagle Warriors, of course, shore up the big hole in the tech tree for Mesoamerican civs because they don't have the stable. And right now, I don't know... Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. Blue is very behind economically, but, you know, every dog has its day. Sometimes your opponent just walks all these villagers over here, tries to do a castle drop, and then Blue gets to kill a bunch of your villagers for free, and now gets to kite away from the Spearmen. Spearmen with no upgrades are pretty terrible. If you've played enough Age of Empires 2 and you've run enough tests, you'll know that once your opponent gets bloodlines and got some defense upgrades and everything like that, your spearments, you really, really, really need upgrades. You also need to get pikemen out. And this is also why this unit isn't that great versus a Knight Rush, if you're like in the Feudal Age, your opponent's in the Castle Age. You have no choice, but Knights are so strong as a unit because spearmen don't deal with them very well, so your opponent has to get like pikemen first if he wants to actually make that a competitive exchange. Spearmen do not trade well. So that's why players typically rely on things such as like monks, for example, or camels as a way to keep them in the game, versus this type of strategy. Now, of course, he does not have access to camels, but he does have monks, which is pretty nice. This is just this is such a mess. Hey, Mr. Mashallah, welcome to the stream. Good to see you guys again. Welcome, welcome. Good lord. As well, Sean CSNM. What an absolute circus. But of course, Jim Bob, Teal's in the Imperial Age, and now No Chill, our red player, also in the Imperial Age. As the Spanish, they have a very broad, wide open tech tree. The Spanish go for all sorts of units if they so desire. Saracen Eagle Warrior, that's OP. How are we going to deal with that? I like this town center placement, though. Always try and put your town center at least next to a wood line, preferably next to a wood line and a mineral deposit like this gold mine. That way you can protect those villagers. I love the Spanish as a civ because Supremacy makes it a lot harder to raid their economy late game. I mean, using Supremacy offensively is hilarious, and that's why I've got that Break the Meta Villager Rush video, but generally speaking, I like Supremacy because it makes my economy rock solid. My villagers can kind of shirk off attacks from hussars and whatnot. Here we see this attack bonus versus buildings coming into play here. Look at this. +5, not bad, not bad. Does not go up when you upgrade them to elite, though. The Longbowmen are coming out now. Sometimes I do see Longbowmen used in like a 1 versus 1 like Britons arena, but I mean, I guess the extra attack helps and their creation speed. They do create, I believe, quite a bit faster than crossbowmen. I'm not sure in the exact creation time. I'm going to say that they create 10 seconds faster than crossbows. So that doesn't completely offset the fact that you can build the archer range sooner. It's much easier to build multiple archer ranges, but I suppose if your economy is smaller, it can be quite nice. In the late game, if you can get away with it, elite longbows are great. That's going to be a costly mangonel shot. It's going to hit a bunch of his own guys, but honestly, that was actually kind of perfect. All the Eagle Warriors were just clumped up. Wow. Wagon's going to eat that shot. Poor Leopard, honestly, probably overinvested in the Tarkans. The Tarkans were great, but, he didn't build up his economy enough, and now he's going to get punished for it, so he seriously needs some help. And meanwhile, his... Bob Jimmy, my friend, I think you're in the wrong base. Of course, he's doing a lot of pressure against Grom. Grom is imp now as well, the Koreans player. There's just too much army over here. But I don't think that Grom needs to retreat, or he's capable of retreating. That's the thing. You have to consider this when you're going aggressively with your military units, is if you're trying to force a retreat by making an offensive play in your opponent's base and you're the pocket, is it even possible for him to retreat? This isn't a decision that Grom can even make. It's not on the table. No, it's going to take him way too long to retreat. Even if he needed to, he was going to keep his army here offensively. So I think it makes more sense to actually defend Leopard here, because Leopard cannot deal with both of these armies at the same time, and you can't force a retreat. A really good player, though, is able to evaluate those situations where he can force the retreat. I think, of course, you know, Teal is doing really well. One of the top players in this game, but perhaps is overcommitting to this attack over here, which was effective, but now he's going to need his ally. He can't possibly win in a 2v3 situation, so we'll have to see. Welcome to the stream, Hayuna, OP, and Stinky Cheese. Good to see you guys, as well as Venereal Manslaughter. I will not be streaming less because of my new job, but if you watch that update video on my YouTube page, you get to hear all about it. Sometimes I post pictures of that on my respective social media pages. So yes, but the good news is, though, is that Bob Jimmy is a great Age of Empires 3 player, and with the Elite Eagle Warrior upgrade out, gonna want some extra Pierce armor, though. I think plate mail armor is on the to-do list. This army is totally hard countered by Eagle Warriors, so I don't think this game is over by any stretch of the imagination. Yellow, of course, struggling a little bit, too. Saracens not much of a strong economy. I mean, neither are the Spanish, but clearly No Chill has a very slight advantage right now. And I think that if Teal masses up the Eagle Warriors instead of streaming them in one at a time, this army is toast. Seriously, all of these units get beaten by Eagle Warriors, every single one of them, and Age of Empires 2 ultimately, in the super late stages, boils down to a game of counters. There's so much more to the game, of course, like, where do you send your army? How is your eco advantage? Like, it's a game of incomplete information, etc. There's a lot of team strategy to it. Whew, that was almost a disaster, nice. But it does help to actually have the right units. You can have the best micro in the universe, and you can have a really large economy, but if your entire army is unupgraded militia, only the Viper could win with that. Most mortal men, not so much. So, great to see that he's getting some assistance, even Red sending in some, so I think Leopard is going to be honestly just fine. Great. Transitioning to Cavaliers here, because once again, he knows that when we're not dealing with a I want to blow up building situation, you generally get to blow up more buildings if your opponent has fewer military units. So Cavaliers and Paladins are generally a better option than Tarkans, but Tarkans do see some situational play. And a really good player will recognize that sometimes Tarkans will be good. But there's a metagame for a reason, because and Break the Meta is all about showcasing strategies that are good in rare, oddly specific situations. And Tarkans are one of those good in oddly specific situations. Most of the time, though, not so much. Hopefully no chill actually doesn't lag out here. It would be an absolute disaster. I've been thoroughly enjoying this game so far. We're on the multiplayer status screen. It only has 13,000 ping. 15,000, 16,000. Ever since Skybox changed it so there's like no cap on the ping count, it's like so comical. But thank God he didn't disconnect. Crisis averted! Whew! Leopard, you don't need to make unique units just for me, but I appreciate it. I'm super flattered, and honestly, you kicked some ass, and I'm super proud of you. Like that was respectable. But see, Leopard knows when to transition away from Tarkans, which is right about now. And perhaps he slightly overcommitted to them, but I think the first wave with the Petard was better than whatever he could have done. That was actually great. So now that Bob Jimmy is massing them up, I think the purple, actually, the shoe's going to be on the other foot. Purple's going to seriously need some help. Oh, interesting with the way the upgrades are set up here. I really feel like the defense upgrades are better in a situation versus mass range units. Ballistic's very important for the Britons. I'm going to just safely assume he has them because they're not horribly missing. Pikeman coming out as well. He's got +1 defense. He's grabbing his upgrades. The Elite War Wagons. I love this unit. This is great. It's just super slow to get out. Nice to see him actually having the economy for that. Meanwhile, Red showing off the versatility of the Spanish. Let's go check out Yellow's eco. I can't help but shake the feeling that Yellow's eco is just a bit too small. Yeah, definitely must be. He may or may not only be on 2 town centers, which at 38 minutes in the game is never correct. So, thank you so much, Nox, for subscribing for 2 months. Really appreciate it. Now, for those of you who take the time to subscribe to me on Twitch, I just really appreciate it if you keep your sub. Makes a big difference. We'll be getting more sub emotes in the near future, so yeah, thank you so much. I love to see all the familiar faces. You're the best, Nox. Now, speaking of things, though, that are the best, this Red Army comp is the best. Well, it's not necessarily perfect, of course, as a way to deal with the Mamelukes. Sure, Mamelukes have no pierce armor, but Skirms also have the attack stat of a wet noodle. But this is okay. This means that he has something else to keep the Mamelukes off him, and honestly, Yellow just doesn't have enough resources to mass anything else. Spanish don't get arbalest, which is not great in a situation like this. I think the hand cannoneers would be something I would inch towards a little bit more as a way to deal with the Saracens. But the good news is for him is that the Saracens guy has nothing, so should be fine. Poor Yellow desperately trying to stall. I mean, this is kind of a nice castle placement because it's on a hill, but you can't possibly keep that alive as the bombard cannons are coming in. I do love to see bombard cannons being used with the Spanish to allow that push. That's just pretty nice army overall. I feel like Yellow's, he's making knights because he's actually only in the castle age, and knights are good versus army overall, but he needs to mass up his stuff. I think in a situation like this, your only hope when you're this badly outnumbered is, one, you need help from your teammates, and two, you need some like lucky mangonel shots. Pray your opponent's sleeping at the wheel and they don't snipe it with a bombard cannon. Maybe you can take out most of his skirms. That would be kind of nice. Nanishi87 says, Resonance, you're a relatively good player, I must say. Well, thank you. I don't often get trushed, nor do I often get salty when I play. I generally get salty outside of the stream due to other real-life related things, but yeah, I mean, I used to be like 1650 to... I was like 1650 to 1700 on Voobly back in the day, so I'm okay at Age of Empires 2. But my passion, of course, is casting and teaching people the game, making Age of Empires more approachable for everybody, and entertaining, which is why I'm here. So... started my YouTube channel in the first place because I wanted to show my friends the game. I live to shill Age of Empires 2 because I think most of us in the chat can agree, and let me know if you agree. Age of Empires 2 is a pretty good game, right? I spent most of my life aggressively shilling this game, and when I was trying to get my friends to play it, because you ain't a friend of mine if you don't play Age of Empires 2, it was really hard to get them into the game. Because one of the reasons why this is such a timeless, wonderful classic, and why I'm still playing it in 2017, is that this game has so much depth to it. It's so complicated. I would never run out of interesting topics to talk about. This game has so much depth. That's what makes it so hard to learn. There are no tutorials on YouTube or any sort of commentary-related videos, so I started on Illuminite, the first Age of Empires 2 YouTube channel. I've been continuing the commentary tradition since then to make Age of Empires more approachable for everybody. That way people can learn this awesome game. Bean Dip agrees that Age of Empires 2 is pretty good. I think we can all agree, yes. I've played a couple of games with you, Melanie, you count. So anyway, YOLO really needs to focus on rebuilding the economy, but more importantly, needs to focus on rebuilding some help. I feel like Purple... Okay, well, this is actually a little bit dicey, honestly. And it's good that we weren't discounting this team, because it looked like for a while that Leopard was going to die. But Leopard is actually just fine here. I don't think he has enough money for Paladin, or he's just waiting on that. I feel, is he waiting on Paladin to engage, or does he just... Yes, he is, of course. I see the body language with his units. I see what's up. Leopard, being a little bit submissive here with his army. Why is he doing this? Oh, he's stalling because he's waiting for that Paladin upgrade. As soon as that power spike comes out, he's engaging. But it looks like Purple's going to try and force this fight. I think that might be right, because I would assume that based off this type of posturing from Blue, if you don't see him engaging and you know he has a lot of... Oh shit, a little bit of mispositioning. I want to look at all these battles, but this is a great one. Wait for the Halbs to overextend. Leopard wasn't born yesterday, not with those wrinkles. Gonna look for the engagement, but Purple slipping right through the crack. And HD unit pathing strikes again. These guys slamming into each other. Has to delete his own walls. Does not get the pursuit. Gets denied. Paladin upgrade is out, but So that was like both a good play and an absolute disaster. Wait for the Halbs to split up off the Longbowman and then exploit their movement speed, going for the kill. Honestly, this is actually a fairly decent exchange too, because he managed to get the siege rams in there. He kills this castle. This is sick. This is why we can't have nice things. Checkmate. Blue did not come out on top of that exchange, but thankfully, him being smart did pull back his entire army. Well played, Purple, to keep everything alive. Oh god, denied again. Don't lose all your paladins like that. Meanwhile, what does Yellow need? He needs help. Now, okay, I feel like if you're Purple, this is something I was thinking about earlier, is that do you send some of your own units to help Yellow and Green? Can he afford to? I was gonna say, yeah, if he like sat back defensively with his army, maybe he had an opportunity to send some military units. I mean, how much money does this guy have? He's got quite a bit of money. So he could either send this to Goodbye Mr. A or to Green, because the Koreans always need more money. But, God, look at these Jaguar Warriors just running. He needs to make something else besides war wagons, or they would have won this game. The thing is I should have made this clear, is I was going to talk about people's unique units regardless of whether or not they make them, because then I get to talk. That's the best part about Age of Empires, is it doesn't matter what you're doing. I can also explain the other side. Why shouldn't you make the unique unit here? Why is no one making Tarkans in the Huns versus Huns Arabia game? Aoe2 says Noodle Skirms cleared all those war wagons. Indeed, that's okay. Skinothonian asks, what bitrate do you stream at? So my bitrate is not that great because I have American internet, which is not that great. But one day, hopefully when I have some money, I can afford better internet, I will be continually improving that over time. So hopefully the quality isn't still watchable, but it's on the to-do list. Appreciate the feedback. So, this is not a good idea at all. I don't know if Purple actually had the ability to send units to help, but the more I think about it, interesting, he's mixing in champions. But why? Champions are not good versus either of these units. Better versus Rams, but I mean, Halbs are sufficient here. I would like to, yeah, like honestly, like almost mono Halbs is fine, and or maybe mix in a couple longbows for support. That's pretty good. It's a bold place to chop wood. Yeah, I mean, really the priority, though, is you want to make sure that Yellow lives. And my heart goes out to him because we've seen better performances from him. But sometimes, man, you just fall behind. You just can't get back up. What's going on here, exactly? I think Grom's addicted to war wagons. I like this unit as much as the next guy. Nothing makes me harder than 200 HP, 9 attack, 5 range, 4 pierce armor, 5 attack versus buildings, which we just learned today. This unit is a blast. It's fun. It has a weird projectile. It's just a weird unit. Is there even anyone in the wagon, or is it just... It's the only double horse unit in the game. I love this unit so much, and yet it is absolutely terrible here. Bob Jimmy, I would say, is playing 3D chess against Grom, but it's really like 1D chess. It's not even a board, it's just one square with a pawn on it. Like, Bob Jimmy's got this pretty clear cut. What he is doing right, though, is he's sending his units to the right places. He's got a great, well-balanced economy, but he knows this was very easy. This was a multiple-choice question with one answer. Eagle Warriors. Just make Eagle Warriors. It's easy, sneezy. A very, very poor matchup here, but thank God, Brahm's making some two-handed swordsmen. I think two-handed swordsmen have, like, I'm gonna say +8 attack bonus versus Eagle Warriors. I've been studying. It's respectable. Not when they're microed like this, though. That's actually not great. If he was making champions, like, immediately, then I think he would have been great. I think that the War Wagons were a fantastic choice. Same thing with the Tarkans. It's going to be a recurring talking point. Everything in Age of Empires is situational. What you want to do. He opened up with War Wagons. It worked great then. But you got to be able to adapt and transition your build. Because War Wagons started becoming terrible very quickly as Bob Jimmy started massing up Eagle Warriors. But in the early game, I mean, he got to mop up those Tarkans. He had a superior amount of units. I think that once the Elite Eagle Warriors come to play, they have 4+4 Pierce Armor, which is much, much, much better than 3+2 regular Eagle Warriors, because the attack stat doesn't change for the Elite War Wagon to War Wagon, if that makes sense. This becomes so much worse in the Imperial Age in this matchup. Champions should have been kind of like the almost immediate go-to transition. Hand Cannoneers are humorable too. Maybe a combination of both if you're feeling feisty. Because frankly, I mean, Red's pushing really slowly, but Yellow just can't possibly live through this. I see he's trying to balance his economy, but man, I think Green finally mopped up this army, but sheesh. Yeesh. Struggle. Zach Slottle says, just got back to Aoe2 last week, and your channel is more than helpful at Resonance 22. Thank you so much, Axolotls. Really, really appreciate it. I love reading comments like that. It makes my day. Thank you. Arbosh says, in your opinion, what is the worst Civ? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure about that. My opinion changes on that. There's kind of like a blob at the bottom, which I think is interchangeable depending on map situation, etc. So, there are a couple civs that I think need a buff. I don't really have a clean-cut answer to that. I feel like Blue is turning this around slowly. Not entirely sure why. It honestly might just be a series of good fights, and that Paladins having to be just a more powerful unit here. I feel like the Britons don't have true powerhouse, super, like, pop-efficient units. They have, like, cost-efficient units once you mass them up. So it's always nice to have, like, Paladins, for example, is a very expensive thing, Siege Onagers, etc. I'm trying to think exactly how Purple can turn this around. I think the answer is be just more careful with his units in general. Because we don't even have max upgrades on... what about the Helms? The Helms have max upgrades. Yeah, these Skirms aren't even max upgrades, so I think just being more careful with your army is the way to go. I think he's just losing a lot of Helps for free. I don't even know... Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's still probably make arbs here, but yeah, he's just losing a lot of units for free. I still think, though, this is kind of be an even little wash, and... Well, here comes the help. So, yeah, Purple sent a bunch of his champions over here. I suppose that's actually why he started losing momentum, is he sent some help. And I think that's great. Here's what I don't think is great. You're winning this fight. You're not winning this fight. You need this man to live. Appreciate the hugs, guys. Thank you so much. On the stream, Seraph. You need this guy. Ah, poor Yellow. Team where? The question that philosophers have been asking for decades. Team where? Guess I'm just gonna go rebuild in the corner. I mean, good of him to not give up and to evacuate as many villas as possible. Now, hopefully, he's gonna build like 18 town centers and boom back like crazy. But like, seriously, the champions should be our priority, my friends. And also, not only that, what about this guy? It's a really tricky balance in Age of Empires 2. I'm pointing this out for educational purposes, for your own games when you're playing. That it's easy to get tunnel vision, but really, the guy that needs you the most is right next door, and you're winning this battle, so you can afford to pull away troops. Now, a common mistake I often see is that, of course, while you're learning the game, because a huge chunk of Age of Empires 2 is being able to read a situation, and at some point, it's going to happen to you where you realize you're winning this battle, your teammate needs help, you pull like half your army away to go try and defend your teammate, and then you end up losing this front and you lose the game. So it takes a lot of good judgment here to get a feel for that. It's just that he needs to do something about this. Look at Yellow, though. Nice. He knows that when you're behind, you got to focus on building up the eco, because you're not going to be able to keep up militarily without an eco to back this up. This game is not over, despite the fact that he has had almost no help at all this entire game. If they can just force the issue over here, and honestly, I feel like this is where the weakness of the Huns shows. I mean, they've been doing a great job. The Huns are a great civilization, one of the most versatile civs in the game. But in the late game, I can't call them a one-trick pony because they have a wide variety of trash. Every trash unit they have is viable, for example. They have siege rams. But their late game tech tree is a bit limited. They have options, but they have fewer options than everyone else. And I do think that they struggle in these super grindy matchups versus civs like the Britons. When you're just fighting in a choke point like this, sure, you have paladins to break the stall and you have siege rams, but they can end up being really costly over the course of the game. We see blue steadily running out of steam, and yes, this is because he just doesn't have enough money. Look how expensive his army is. Now he's forced to transition to skirms, but his skirms will be missing the max defense upgrade because of the Huns, and this is what I mean, where I feel like the Britons are capable of grinding this out. The Huns are much better, I think, in like a more open battlefield, specifically in the early game, or in a different matchup like this. They're still okay, they can still overpower it, but it's just going to be a costly battle for him, isn't it? Let's go take a look at Leopard's, not Leopard's economy. Yeah, so Purple's got a lot of money in the bank. Again, because he can do this because he's the Britons. He can just sit back, fight under his castles. He's pretty much good to go. Red's going for Paladins now. That's pretty nice. This fight appears to be kind of even, but where's Green going? Is Green finally going to help over here? I mean, he's about to get 2v1'd if he's not careful, but he needs to escort these. Champions upgrades out. Max defense. He's got max upgrades on his champions. This is going to be great for this engagement. Grom has to be careful, though, because his Hunter's a little bit out of position. Oh no! Absolute disaster! But it's okay, we don't expect perfection, of course. These players are a little bit like the mid to lower rated side, of course, and everyone makes mistakes. So basically, just make sure that you keep your onagers escorted. Green's been having a wonderful game, honestly. It's great to see him transitioning to champions, so he's definitely doing quite a few things right here, and now he's going to have to take on both these guys at the same time while Yellow builds back, and he might be able to. I wonder if 2 town centers is honestly sufficient as a way to boom back when you've lost everything. I mean, usually I just dump 4. Yeah, because he only has 70 pop. I mean, Yellow's got the right idea, but I think he needs to go deeper into it. Oh, hello, welcome to stream that, Kier. Yeah, I try to find a balance between answering questions in chat or just saying hello to people and then also just talking about the game, because I realize that there is a happy medium, of course. But I'm more active answering questions, saying hello between games, but never hurts to say hi. We're all one big happy family here. Appreciate you stopping by, man. Welcome to Stream Deck here. Rush should cast a free-for-all between all his mods. That could be interesting. So this battle's been going on for just absolute ages. But Purple still holds on, because again, you know, Blue's just a little bit poor. He needs to transition into trade, and again, I think that this favors the Britons until, you know, maybe the Huns have like $1 billion. If the Huns have $1 billion, though, it can really swing things around. You're capable of attritioning them unless they've got the trade line of the gods. And here comes the elephant in the room that involves no actual literal elephants, the Spanish. How will Green cope with this? Well, not after losing that battle. Lots of skirms in the battlefield here. How are we doing on upgrades? Looks like almost everyone's got all upgrades. Nice. So what do you make in a situation like this? Oh, so here's another problem. Green is playing well, but there are a couple things he can do to go from Grom level to God level. So, a couple of things here is that if he builds his barracks just a little closer to the battlefield, I think he'd be golden. Champions are not a unit known for their natural speed, of course, unless you're playing the Celts. Thank you so much, Ponyron Swanson, for your 7-month resub. Always a pleasure to have you, and hope to see you in the future. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. You can attrition them. So, building the barracks close to the battlefield, I think, really helps. You only need to make more town centers. Grom. Oh, ooh, yeah. So he also needs more unit production facilities because he's only at 130 population. Probably needs more villagers too. You know, if you're not pop capped, you probably don't have enough. If you're not pop capped and you don't have like a large army, you probably don't have enough villagers if you're just not able to afford it. So he doesn't have enough villagers, doesn't have enough unit production facilities. Otherwise, he's doing well, but there's no way you can hold this 2v1. So all eyes on goodbye, Mr. A, the guy who's been beaten up all game. Poor guy, no help whatsoever. He's putting down the 3rd town center now, but I think he's going to be transitioning too slowly. Maybe if he can put some skirms in the mix, mix the skirm mix, he should be fine. Here comes the light cav. The Huns have a pretty narrow tech tree, but they have a couple tricks up their sleeve, mostly involving things on horses or things that don't cost gold. And this thing happens to be on a horse. Light cavalry, great answer in this situation. Is he missing one of the upgrades on his elite skirmishers? Aren't they supposed to have? Oh no, he's not. That's 5+4. We're good. Yeah. So anyway. Lack of helps punished here. Blue doing a great job holding the line despite having no money whatsoever. Now he's just trying to set up a trade line as best he can. these backseat workshops. Marine's not going to be able to hold the line here. What a long game. With my allergies, I'm like dying. Need more antihistamines. Now, Stinky Cheese says, I always recommend noobs in my games who make like 30 bills and are stuck in the feudal age of 5 pikes and skirm deer videos. Well, thank you so much, Stinky Cheese. Guys like you who actually take the time to share my content around, leave a thumbs up and a comment, really make all the difference. Make all the work I put in worthwhile. I've always been super dedicated to the community, and it means a lot to me that you give back, so thank you so much, Stinky Cheese. The goal is to make every player in Age of Empires 2 average. Make Aoe2 mediocre again. That's the idea. Because the average player in Age of Empires 2 is unfathomably bad at the game. You know, we say that average is like 1600 on Voobly, but if you're polling the entire player base and you're looking at it from a broader perspective, the average player is significantly worse than that. But of course, it's really just like the difference between the Viper and the worst player in Age of Empires 2. There's a really big gap. Age of Empires 2 is a colossal gap, maybe one of the bigger ones out of most online games. And my goal is to slightly reduce that gap. That's the idea. Doris Lowell says, I'm the best AoE player here. Can't refute that. Welcome to the Stream Talking Master. Thank you for the 9-month resub. Good to have you, good to have you. Hyuna OP says, I saw Goths versus Huns 2K Voobly deathmatch game, and the Hun guy made two-handed swordsmen versus Goths halbs, and it worked. I mean, yeah, sometimes that is going to work. Sometimes as the Mayans two-handed swordsman will work out. And a good player is one that is able to recognize those situations. So, this is turning out to be quite terrible for this team. The outpost is coming. The bombard cannons are incoming as well. Big weakness to the Spanish is a lack of siege engineers. Really does hold them back from what would otherwise be an absurdly broken civilization. Spanish, though, still great. Always I'm never unhappy to see the Spanish on my team because their trade bonus, broad tech tree. They have a little bit of a slow eco, but they can do so many different things so effectively. Here come the Hussars. I feel like Purple's running out of steam too. Does he need more unit production facilities? I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, he might, yeah. And this is the thing, is how many military buildings do you actually need in a game of AoE2? Sometimes a comically high amount of them. As a guy who used to play a lot of high-rated Black Forest on Voobly back in the day, I can attest that sometimes, honestly, 5 barracks is not enough. Sometimes you might need 7 even, so even more than that. Like, he has a ton of archery ranges. He might need more if he's not actually pop-capped, either that, or he needs to get up that StarCraft 2 Korean APM a little bit, shift Q at each of these. But that takes a lot of practice. Yeah, he's just got so many idle military buildings. Grom says he thinks it's GG. I think that's fair to say, especially because now No Chill really wants to... A great way to salt the earth and make sure that you keep any map control you've gained is by actually building bombard towers. Slowly inching that line forward. So Korean keeps in the defense. I guess if you're playing Regicide Fortress in the expansions, you want to get arrow slits, right? If you have keeps, just because it's cheap. Oh me, oh my. Yeah, Twist asks, do you think that Red needed Rams or Trebs? It looks like he took very long destroying Yellow's base to attacking Green. So to preface this, I'll say that I try to take questions from the chat, and I'll be selective about it, but I take questions in the chat sometimes because people who are watching will be asking these questions and wondering about them, and it also helps direct me to topics that people need answers to. It's all about learning. So, did Red need more siege because his push was really slow? Yes, that's a good point. And I also can't talk about everything during a game. There's so much going on. Yeah, he probably needed more siege. His push was a bit slow. He could have tacked on additional bombard cannons. He wasn't facing that much physical, like, military unit resistance, so I think he would have been fine in that regard. Poor Yellow finally building back, but he was going to call GG. Ha! Hey. I think that these guys did well. I'm really proud of Purple, Green, and Yellow. So the Goodbye Mr. A, Grom, Never Makes Longbows, and ... I think they all did great. Purple particularly, one of the MVPs of this game, really showing the Britons' ability to attrition you in the late game. Notice how this line never really moved, and props to Leopard for actually managing to hold out here just due to some good eco balancing, and then also appropriate amount of military buildings. I'd say, you know, having more military units in this military buildings in this side would have helped, and also just helping Yellow earlier on. Red probably did need more siege weapons. The opposing team, of course, Jim Bob, Leopard, and No Chill all also played great, and that is indeed why they won. Red really did an excellent job keeping Yellow on his toes, never letting the Saracens get off the ground because they have a very powerful late game due to their gunpowder, Mamelukes, etc., good siege weapons. Blue with a very, very well done Tarkan Rush early game, showing us the power of that unique unit. In addition to that, Teal as well, applying so much pressure on ground. You also don't want the Koreans to get too big either. Koreans one of the strongest late-game civilizations on a closed-style map. So, great to keep him bottled in there. I think the Teal made a little bit of a gamble by doing that, but it definitely paid off in the end. And Teal, when needed, actually did show up to defend over here. And overall, great game from these guys. Let's check out the achievements. We'll swap over to one of these guys so we get the victory music. Hey, Armgan, welcome to the stream. Ragemaster says, didn't expect Tarkans. No one expects the Tarkans, my friend. GG, Ragemaster. Look at that KD. See, it's not even like that great of a KD, but it is positive. And you know, Leopard in a situation like this is going to have a worst KD, but what he really needed to do, because it would have been very tricky for him to push versus the Britons there, is he just needed to not die and just keep the battlefield even. And, you know, it's all about recognizing your win condition there. Leopard didn't need to do anything too super reckless if he wanted to win this game, because he knows the other side of the map is pushing. So all he needs to do is break even, and he threatened to come back multiple times in that front, but Ragemaster, our purple player there, did manage to hold the line. He'll actually kill quite a few units, even though his military is actually not that large. There are a lot of somewhat smaller militaries here, but that just takes practice with macro. It makes Age of Empires such a fascinating game. Trade profit, you know, is a little bit weak here. I feel like players probably could have started making trade carts like 10 minutes earlier than they did. I usually like to start thinking about it. I really like to start pumping them out around 50 minutes, but you want to start thinking about it earlier because sometimes you will need to start production sooner. So, yeah. Not bad, not bad. It's a lot of buildings lost. Poor goodbye, Mr. A. Poor goodbye, Mr. A. Let's take a look at economies. Holy shit! Red was an absolute monster that game, and honestly, his economy is too small. Not punished at all. Whoa! 86 villagers. Man, if No Chill builds like 20 extra villagers every game from now on, this guy's gonna be unstoppable. He had the smallest economy in the game, and yet he was never punished once. Just constantly dominating them. If this guy makes 20 extra villagers, he's going to be 50,000 elo in no time. 86 villagers not generally sufficient to sustain military production. But good news is, Red Red was playing so well that he didn't actually lose that many units. He blew 97 buildings. But this is probably a little too small, so we'd like to see at least 100 every game. No problem. And yeah, it takes practice to be able to keep up your military production. Great game overall. Please do let me know in the comments if you found my commentary to be either entertaining or educational, and or both. Really appreciate the support. I got plenty of other Age of Empires 2 videos on my YouTube channel, as well as videos for other games. I do play a wide variety of games on my channel, not just Age of Empires. So thank you for those of you who take the time to check out all of those and show your support. It means a lot to me. If you are new to the game, and there is one video that I'd really like you to watch, it's probably my Night Rush tutorial. I think that one covers almost everything you need to know to get started online and have some fun. Okay, we'll be back in about 2 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break, get some coffee, and we're going to get into the next game. So please don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned, stay tuned. Another game coming up after this. It's going to be a higher rated game, so we're going to see some excellent players here. GG, well played. Thank you for watching so far. Stick around.